Welcome back to the channel. It's getting late in the year, so we're doing a little maintenance on the mower. Our biggest problem though with this mower has been the flat tires though. A little bit in the back, but almost always in the front, these caster wheels up here. Right now, I just filled it up yesterday, and it's already lower. I bet when I come back tomorrow, it'll be flat. So it'll only last a couple days. What we're gonna do though, is we're gonna put on these NoAir flat free tires. Now there are several brands out there. I went with NoAir because they're based out of Texas, and it seemed like a good product with good reviews. So I've only got a few more days in my 30-day return window to open this, check it out, make sure it's okay before that expires and before we could send it back. So hopefully everything is good. We are working on a Scag Patriot model, and this is the tires for the Scag Patriot. Let's open it up and get started. Yeah, size is generally right. Looks good. Even though these are NoAir tires, they are branded as Carlstar. It even says here, Carlisle branded tires are now Carlstar. There is some ribbing on the tires right here, so it's smooth and then ribbed. There's some chalk writing here. Can't make it out too well. The profile is the same, they just don't look as puffy as the tires with air in them. For the Patriot model, these are going to be the 13 by 6.5-6. I did just see on these tires that there's nothing else in the box. I thought there would be, but the spacers are already included inside the tire axle. And it looks like they already installed grease zerks, which I didn't know that came with it. All right. Ooh, good guess, 3/4. Let's pull our axle bolt out. There's our greasy axle. Do our tire out. There we go. Let's see what we got on this one. I'm going to try to keep this axle bolt clean. All right, let's see if we got spacers on here, if that's what this is. Yep, so there are spacers on the old one, if you're curious. One spacer on this side, and I'm assuming this is a spacer covered in dirt. There is a spacer on both sides, just a little, well, they go partially in. And then there's the bushing here in the middle that if I push, it'll come out. There's the bushing right there. So it was axle surrounded by the bushing, spacer on both sides. Stomp on that bug for me.
What bug? Oh.
The one moving. Okay, there you go. I'll put this spacer in. There's a rubber seal here, so it's just gonna squeeze in, back in. All right, there we go. And so it sticks out a little bit, not much. Let's put the other one in on the other side. Turn it around so we can see.
It's happening, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just had...
now it worked.
Yep, now it worked. So we do have a decent gap here, so I don't know if we're going to use the spacer from the old wheel. I'm going to loosen the other old wheel to see how much space it has once I loosen the fork for the caster here. I just verified on the second tire, there's not much space. Okay, you can probably see a little bit here. This is the original Scag bushing, and this is the new one that came with the new NoAir tires. And if I put them up next to each other, very similar, but the original Scag is slightly longer. So we want to use that one to get the extra width. Once you clamp down the forks, it shouldn't matter that much, but I chose to go with the longer one of the two. I got to looking at the old and the new tires. At first I thought I was going to need an extra spacer here, and I actually put it together with an extra spacer. The more I got to thinking about it, and I wondered if taking that spacer out and using the other bushing would be enough, and it seems to be that it's going to work fine. The wheel spins freely on that bushing, so there are spacers on the inside that are captive, and then there's spacers that I put on the ends, one on each side, but they don't stick out very much, and there's no extra spacer here like I did the first time. Now, instead of having an extra spacer that might actually not quite align with the other spacer, it might be off center, which would lead to perhaps problems. This one, it moves half a spacer here don't know if you can see that, but it never comes off this spacer, or this spacer for that matter, if I move it over there. With the original setup, with the bolt, with the bushing from the original tire, there are two internal spacers in here, and you're going to put on the other two spacers, one on each side, so there will be no additional spacer, and everything seems to be working fine that way. So I like that better than the other plan I had, which was to add that extra spacer. Once I tightened this, the fork got tighter, so it doesn't look quite as spacious. All right, I'm going to swap out the other side so you can see. I'm going to take off the old way I did it and take that extra spacer out so you can see. So there's an extra spacer right in there, if you can tell. We're going to remove that. We're going to take this spacer out, use the bushing from the original tire with the current setup, same bolt, and a spacer on each side, but not an additional spacer. So let's go ahead and undo this. Trial and error. That's what that is. Trial and error. I guess I should point out there were no instructions with this, so I guess they assume you are going to do it your own way. I thought maybe it would come with extra, probably not an extra bushing, but extra spacers, you know, like several of them, but so you could pick your own size. But it did not come with that. All right, so I'm going to drop this extra spacer right here, so we don't need that. Come on, there we go. Keep the bolt. That's our original bolt from Scag. And now we're going to swap this bushing. So that's the additional bushing that they sent right there. That's the bushing from the NoAir tires. All right, here's the old tire again. We're going to take this old bushing out because it is slightly longer, we said. And that works out better for everybody. There we go. Let's slide this bushing into the new tire. It's trying to push my spacer out there, so we'll just keep an eye on that. There we go. Now, when I stick this between the forks right here, yeah, see this, it looks bigger than it is, but once we tighten up the fork, there's really not a lot of play. It's kind of an illusion I fell for the first time, I guess. Now, another thing you might want to consider is which direction the bolt goes. You, of course, have your choice this way or the other way, but putting it in one way, when this tire is rolling forward, which is your most common direction, that's going to be on the outside, leaving not much that you can brush up against and break that bolt head off, or the nut if you had the nut on that side. When this turns around, we're going to have the bolt head on the outside there. So let's go ahead and put this tire on. There we go. I'd say there's maybe a ½ an inch or less there of the bolt showing where the bushing doesn't cover, but the bushing is covering most of it. And once we tighten this, you're going to watch this distance here disappear. Just put the nut on here. I guess that's it. Need a little bit deeper socket. But that is plenty tight. Our wheel spins freely. Everything looks good. We're not even wiggling back and forth. You see when we're rolling forward here, like that, it's going to put the bolt head on the outside so it doesn't have much to shear off if you bump anything. I just came back with a wrench, used the drill on the other side, tightened it up even more on this side, and I verified both sides, both tires only wiggle on the axle on the bushing, I'd say by about not much more than 1/8 of an inch. So just a tiny bit. I could crank it down even more, but I don't see a point. I just let it wiggle a little bit. But everything's on together. You know, it's not going anywhere. It's just sliding a little bit. That's it. I did put the plastic caps on the old tires just to keep the dirt and grime out of there. Here we got 2 new tires on, 2 new casters. So the next step is we're going to grease them with our Dewalt Grease Gun. And just like a lot of things in life, plastic breaks. So let me get a screwdriver. There we go. We got the Dewalt Grease Gun with the LockNLube XL. Now I'm going to put my LockNLube on here. All right. Just takes a lot of grease. Took a while, but I see grease coming out of the other side. Let me show you. Okay, if it's like the other tire, we're going to see grease here coming out on the bolt head side. I'm actually going to use the flashlight from here to try to light it up for you. Hopefully you should see grease coming out here. Still not seeing any grease anywhere. Just takes a lot of grease. Okay, finally. Okay, that took a lot more grease than I expected. We're done. We got brand new casters, NoAir, flat free, solid rubber on the front of this Scag Patriot mower. All right, thank you for watching. Stay tuned, click that like button, give us a subscribe. We'll see you next time on Homestead, y'all.